Vygotsky, Social Cultural Theory. Lev Vygotsky was a Russian psychologist who is most known for his theories on developmental psychology. Vygotsky's ideas greatly influenced theories of psychology and education and continues to play an important role in educational practices today. His social cultural theory emphasizes the importance of culture and interaction in the development of cognitive abilities. He believed that through guided participation, known as scaffolding, with a teacher or capable peer, a child can learn cognitive skills with a certain range known as the zone of proximal development. Lev Vygotsky concentrated on the child's interactions with peers and adults. He believed that the child was an apprentice. Learning through sensitive social interactions with more skilled peers and adults, Vygotsky saw the child as more of an apprentice, learning through a social environment of others who had more experience and were sensitive to the child's needs and abilities. Vygotsky's work was largely ignored during his lifetime, but has since had a major influence on education and child development theory. Zone of proximal development. Vygotsky stated that children should be taught in the zone of proximal development, also referred to as the ZPD. The ZPD is middle zone of learning when children perform a task, not solely on their own, but with some assistance. The other zones of learning consist of the outermost zone, that is what the child cannot do, and the innermost zone, that is what the child can do unassisted. And to further learning, new challenges are given to find a child's next zone of proximal development. What does the physical domain of development have to do with Vygotsky's theory? The physical domain of development is the biological aspect of a child's growth. Examples of this are the brain, body, sensory capacities, motor skills, and overall health. Whilst Vygotsky's theory of cognitive development is mostly focused on cognitive and psychosocial domains of development, physical development is important in order to improve the other domains. Most schools are required for students to participate in physical education. Vygotsky's social cultural theory of cognitive development. Vygotsky emphasized the role of social environment in the child's cognitive development. Vygotsky agreed with Piaget that the development of cognitive abilities takes place in stages, and he also agreed broadly with the description of the stages. However, he viewed cognitive development as a social process where children learn from experienced adults. Vygotsky's theories relates to the cognitive domain as a child learns to use their psychological tools, such as speaking to themselves through tasks. How Vygotsky's theory relates to the psychosocial domain of development. The psychosocial domain can be shown as a social-emotional process. This domain involves emotions, personality, and social relationships. Vygotsky saw that the environment of a child is a main source of their personality development. A child's environment also plays a role in the social relationships they make. Social relationships made by a child can impact their development, as an adult or trusted peer is who guides them through their zone of proximal development as they learn. How Vygotsky's theory is currently applied in the early childhood education setting. Vygotsky's theory is still widely applied today, particularly in reference to his concept of the zone of proximal development. This concept is based on the belief of pairing children with what he referred to as more knowledgeable other, aiming to equip them with the tools to unlock a higher level of cognitive thinking. Today, this is seen in the K-12 school system. In the United States, children are legally required to attend school, as mandated by the No Child Left Behind Act, signed into law on January 8, 2002, by then President George W. Bush. This act stated that schools would be held accountable for children's learning and achievement, Schools could face penalties if they didn't demonstrate improvement in their learning environments. Therefore, annual testing and academic progress must be recorded. As a result, children are placed in Vygotsky's zone of proximal development. Teachers with their proper education and credentials are trusted to educate students, effectively acting as a more knowledgeable other. Kimberly Crenshaw. The NCLB Act focused on providing better education opportunities to the following groups: students in poverty, students of color, students in need of special education services, students whose English comprehension skills were little to none. Meeting these needs often places these counselors at odds with their funding agencies, which allocate funds according to standards of needs that are largely white and middle class. These uniform standards of support ignore the fact that different needs often demand different priorities in terms of resource allocations, and consequently, these standards hinder the ability of counselors to address the needs of non-white and poor women. What do Vygotsky's, the NCLB Act, and Crenshaw all have in common? They could all agree that there is a trend of children who, based on race, class, and sex, are neglected, and along with that, another trend of children are placed in better learning environments and given more priority. Because of this, we have generations of children who, because of race, class, and gender, are systematically at a disadvantage and unable to get out of it because they are unable to get positions due to candidates that were former children who are given priority, therefore able to achieve higher schooling and wealth accumulation, which will then pass on to their children and another generation of priority students. Credits.